If you want to become the best, strongest, most disciplined, and godliest version of yourself, you need to destroy your lust. But how do we do that in the moment where we feel lust? See, this is the moment where it all counts. You can have all the knowledge, all the drive in the world, but it's really tested as soon as the feeling actually hits. Now, I'm 22 years old. I've been celibate for 3 years, so that's over 1,000 days. I started when I was 19, I'm now 22. And before this, I went another additional year when I was 16 years old. So even young and stupid me could do this using this methodology that I figured out at that age. And I've obviously been adding to it and enhancing it as the years have gone on, which is why I've been able to go 3 years. But this is the best groundwork that you're ever going to find for defeating your lust, and I'm going to explain why. The reason I call this the chip away method is because lust isn't something that you can just do one thing and it's defeated and it goes away. Mainly because 2 Timothy 2:22 says you have to flee from your lust. In other words, you can't really fight it. If you keep throwing punches at it, it's just going to keep getting bigger. It's something that you can't really defeat outright. Something that we have to flee from. It's our deepest primal desire as creatures to reproduce. So it's not something that's easy to fight. It's wired into us. It's our number one drive, instinctually. So we need extreme measures in order to counteract it. These are 5 steps that saved even young and stupid me from my own lust. We're going to chip away at it slowly with enough defense mechanisms to make it impossible to cave. Now the cool thing is, if you fail trying to follow this list, you're not following it or you're not doing all the steps. I guarantee you. If you fail, you can look at one of these steps and say, yeah, I didn't do that effectively. Yeah, I didn't reinforce this enough. So you can always come back to this. Let's start with step 1. Recognize it. You need to say, I'm lusting right now. I want to give in to this temptation. I want to do something that God is not okay with me doing. Now, you're not always going to have an opportunity to say it out loud, but preferably if you're alone in your room, on your phone, in an environment where no one's going to hear you, it's smart to say, oh man, I'm lusting right now. I shouldn't be doing this. Recognizing it is extremely important because it's how we cognitively register that we need to do the next steps. So step 1 is recognize. Step 2 is list out the cons to yourself. So this requires a bit of memorization. I'll list some just so you know what they are. For example, less testosterone, brain fog, which is like trouble cognitively processing things and you really don't feel like everything is clear, warping your view of the opposite sex to make it harder to interact with them, to form relationships with them, and see them as normal people. And you have less overall energy throughout the day. Caving into your lust kills your overall flow. It basically neuters you. It creates this watered down version of you that doesn't have the world clearly in front of them. It almost puts a film over your eyes. And when you go 2 to 3 weeks celibate, this film begins to lift. And you start to feel this immense amount of clarity that you never experienced before. So this is why it's important to remind yourself of the cons. Because although you're caving into something that's a momentary pleasure, you're actually sacrificing so many things and making your life so much worse by doing it for simply 5 minutes of some stupid pleasure that God doesn't even approve of. So memorize the cons and list them to yourself in the moment after you recognize it. The next thing you do is after you list the bad, then we list the good. 3, list the pros of not falling into your lust. I'll give you a few just to be sure. Increased testosterone, more energy, confidence, more drive, higher levels of discipline, and a really cool one is power in prayer. 1 Corinthians 7:5 is Paul warning married couples to not sexually deprive each other unless they both agree on it and they both want to strengthen their spiritual life. So, Paul is basically saying that celibacy leads to increased power and potency in prayer. I obviously paraphrased it, but that's what it means. So in addition to having these awful cons that literally ruin your life, quitting has these awesome pros that only 1% of people actually get to experience because not everybody wants to discipline themselves to this degree. This gives you a huge advantage. After 2 weeks of celibacy, your testosterone increases by 150%, which is actually why a lot of people fail at 2 weeks because it's such an overwhelming amount of testosterone they haven't really experienced before. So that's just a little fun fact. It also increases your confidence. It lifts that veil over your eyes and now you can see everything clearly. And if you haven't gone 2 to 3 weeks, trust me, it's insane. You'll wake up one day and just feel like the air is crisp. It's really, really extraordinary. You're going to have more overall energy because you're not constantly spilling your seed over and over again. You're going to have more drive to get things done. And this is going to build that mental framework of discipline. Remember, we're fighting against our number one natural drive to reproduce, which means that the discipline required to do that is off the charts. And not only does that discipline you against your lust, it disciplines you against other things as well, like being physically disciplined with your body in the gym, being disciplined with managing your anger, managing your sadness, your depression, managing all these extreme emotions. 1 Peter 5:8 says to keep a sober mind because the devil prowls around like a roaring lion waiting for somebody to devour. Being sober minded in the most stressful and pressureful situations starts with discipline. And there's no greater way to build discipline as a Christian than to sexually discipline yourself. See, when you feel lust, when you feel the temptation to sexually sin, you're not sober. You're delusional. You're trying to rationalize your immoral feelings in order to feel momentary pleasure. That's not sobriety, that's delusion. This is the type of thing that the devil preys on. This is the type of thing that the devil wants to get you to do in order to make your walk with God worse. He's using your own shortcomings as a weapon against yourself. So building the discipline to be able to be sober minded even when you feel these emotions is crucial. It also helps you learn that your logical being, that your self is separated from your bodily and chemical emotions that drive these types of feelings. It allows you to separate that, and that creates discipline. So after you list the cons, list the pros. And believe me, the pros are crazy. They will put you in the top 1%. The fourth and most important step. Normally, you're going to be alone on your phone or on a computer. So turn your phone off, put it face down, slide your keyboard and your mouse away, and leave the room. Now, I'm going to give you a little bonus tip. Don't put yourself in environments where lust is a natural byproduct of being there. For example, maybe don't be alone in your room at 11 p.m. Maybe just put everything away and go to bed. Don't go to parties or bars where there are going to be lustful people. It makes it harder for yourself. So don't even put yourself in that situation. If you never put yourself in that situation, you'll never start lusting. And if you do, it'll be that much easier to overcome because you're not facing all these physical temptations in front of you like a phone, a computer, or God forbid, a person. But if you are in person and somebody's making you feel lust, recognize it, remember the cons, remember the pros, and say, I gotta go. Sorry. That's it. Your walk with God is more important than that person feeling like you're attractive or you approve of them. It's way more important. Anyways, once you get out of the area, physically leave the area, go far, put yourself in some kind of physical discomfort, whether that's sprinting outside, hitting push-ups, hitting a wall sit, doing whatever you need, taking your shirt off, and going outside in the winter, taking a cold shower. Make yourself physically uncomfortable so that your mind cannot focus on your lust. This is the step most people fail. If you fall into your lust in your room, you failed to leave. If you fall into lust at a party, you failed to leave. So next time, do step 4 better. All it takes is that split-second choice to physically leave, to physically put things down. All it takes is that split-second choice to recognize it, remember the cons of ruining your life, and then the pros, the gains of not falling into your lust, retaining your seed, and then leaving. Just leave. Based on all these factors, just leave. Force yourself to put the phone down. Force yourself to walk away from that person who you might find attractive. But guess what? If they're leading you into lust, you shouldn't be around them anyways. And the final step is, what are your goals? You need to have them. What are you fighting for? What do you want to do with your life? What do you want out of life? Our ultimate goal should be to walk with God and become the most godly person we can be, to be the eyes and ears and arms and hands of Jesus Christ. However, it's okay to have goals that distract you and motivate you not to lust, because that ultimately motivates you on your walk with God. Do you want more money? Do you want a girlfriend slash a wife? Do you want a better body in the gym? Do you want to become better at a certain skill? Do you want to grow numbers on social media? Whatever it is, you have to realize that if you're falling victim to your own lust, you're not going to get those things. Lusting is a path of pleasure, not of success. Lusting is a path of delusion, not reality. You're falling into a fantasy every time you fall into your lust, and you're not facing reality and actually seizing what you want. What the pros of not lusting does is they allow us to have that raw, teeth gritting strength in order to recognize and seize and become who we need to be to get what we want. Walking with God and loving people is the number one step. And I promise you, if you're lusting, you cannot love everybody like Christ loved them. You're seeing the opposite sex in a warped lens. You're not seeing your brother like a brother. You may be seeing them like an opponent, like somebody to fight against in competition for someone else's attention. When the world is hypersexualized, you can't see anything straight. And hypersexualization comes from the monetization of lust. Most of the problems you see, that I see, with modern men and women comes from lust. It's so obvious, but nobody wants to discipline themselves and destroy their lust. That's why I'm giving you 5 of the easiest steps ever. So now I'm going to go back over them. The first step, recognize it. Say, I'm lusting right now. Catch the feeling. Take the thought captive, as Paul says. Remember the cons. Memorize the cons. Less testosterone, brain fog, warping your view of the other sex, and less energy throughout the day to get stuff done. Third, remember the pros, the overwhelming pros: increased testosterone, more energy, confidence, drive, discipline. And your prayer becomes more potent and powerful because God sees what you're doing for him. Step 4, the most important one: leave the area, put the phone away, slide the keyboard and mouse away, leave the party, leave the person, and make yourself physically uncomfortable in order to make your mind not focus on the environment and the things that made you lust in the first place. And finally, have goals. What are you fighting for? Know what you're striving for, and know that whatever you're fighting for, whatever you're trying to achieve in life, the only wall that it's sitting behind is your discipline. And your discipline is locked down by how you manage your lust. To get over that wall, you need to conquer your lust. To achieve everything that you've ever wanted, you need to conquer your lust. Become the best version of yourself. Give yourself that top 1% advantage over everybody else. And if you still fail trying to follow this list, you're not following one of the steps to the best of your ability. And if you do all of this, you leave the room, everything, and then you go back to your room and you find yourself lusting again, do the list again. Recognize it. List the cons, list the pros, leave the room, remind yourself of your goals. Don't think about, oh shoot, I need to get rid of this lust right now. No. Say, what am I fighting for? Focus on the target, not the enemy. Focus on the target, not what you're fighting against. Then, if you go back and you're not thinking about your lust at all, you're just thinking about your goals, but then lust creeps in again, recognize it, list the cons, list the pros, leave, remember your goals, go back. Oh, you feel it again, recognize it, list the cons, list the pros, leave, remember your goals. Keep repeating. If you fail, it's because you're not doing one of the steps properly. This helped me for 1 year at 16, and then 3 years steadily since I was 19. I'm now 22. This is the framework right here. This is the only thing you're going to need. Feel free to ask me any questions in the comment section. I'm very passionate about this, as you can probably tell. If you want to become the best, most godly version of yourself, destroy your lust. Follow the call to Christ, and God bless you. Lock in.